Welcome to Sound Off Sports. On today's show, we got a jam-packed action show for you. We're talking to Ayanna Watson, a Gatorade Player of the Year when it comes to women's volleyball. We also are talking about Aaron Rodgers and the Jets and all these primetime games the NFL has slated for them. And lastly, yes, we got to talk about $100K going to each and every player on the Aces roster. What does that mean for the WNBA? We got your thoughts. SOS starts right now.
Make some noise. This is Sound Off Sports.
Welcome to Sound Off Sports, SOS as I like to call it. I'm your host, Mike Davis, joined by my producer, James Edward Barrickman the fourth. James, great to be with you guys. A lot to dive into on today's show, but first we got to start with this big talk about the Las Vegas Aces and the entire roster getting $100,000 from, yes, the LVCVA here in Las Vegas. So, James, tell us, we asked everybody at home what they thought about this and what this means for the WNBA and parity and competition and all those good things. What did the people at home have to say?
This first one is from Victor Knight on Facebook. He says, all good by me. What's the difference with players signing shoe contracts or with car dealerships? Are they mad because the entire squad is getting a sponsorship contract?
Okay, yeah, that makes it a little different. That's interesting. Let's go to the next, though, comment as well.
This next one is from Pulis Peng Kalawakan. Yes, it's cheating. It's circumventing the salary cap.
Okay, now that's what you think, James. You have stronger feelings on this than I do. Tell me where you're at, because that last comment right there, that's where your sentiments lie.
I think you're pushing the boundary of salary cap circumvention. And as the more I think about this, this feels just like a new way of, a player signing a shoe deal or with a car dealership. It's a new way of sponsoring players. And I just don't think it's something that we have ever seen before. So it feels illegal where the city or an organization that represents the city in which the Aces play is giving $100,000 to every single player on the roster. That's much different than a star player signing here with BetMGM. There's a stark difference between that and, a normal Nike deal. You get what I mean?
Yes and no. My feelings are interesting on this. I want to hear this message we got from a caller before I give my thoughts. Let's hear this voice message.
Yes, I think it's right to give them girls that money. They're a good team. They're our team in Las Vegas. If you can pay the NFL all the money to paying them and the basketball players that we have, yes, pay those girls that they deserve it. My name is Gerald W. Davis, and I appreciate you letting me talk. Thank you very much.
All right, so, I agree. The LVCVA, what does this amount to? $1.2 million. That really costs nothing for them. But I think, yes, in a sense, I think what you're getting at, James, is that are players going to be compelled? Is it going to behoove them to go to certain cities because of a potential sponsorship deal that they're going to get, like this is a shoe deal or something like that of that nature? I'm okay with it. I think it's actually good for the sport. I think, to me, this is the city saying, we want you to continue this excellence. The fact that you guys are back-to-back champions and you're continuing on that path, that's a good thing for attracting people to come to our city, not only to be visitors and tourists, but it shows us that we have a community, and it's expanding what our community and our sports community here is in Las Vegas. So I don't see the issue with it, and to me it's completely different than salary cap manipulation if the Aces and the organization, the WA, is not involved. It's the same thing as getting a car dealership sponsorship, in my opinion, but that's how I look at it. I know you feel differently.
Yeah, no, like I said, I just feel like it pushes the boundary of salary cap circumvention, but really it isn't, because the Aces have nothing to do with this. This is just a new kind of sponsorship that we've never really seen before. A city forking out some money to pay their, professional sports teams, players, and it's similar to like an NIL deal.
Right.
Really, which we're really only used to seeing in college and not at the professional level. So the more I think about it, the more I'm okay with it, as long as other teams are aware that, hey,
Right.
this is fair game, you're allowed to do that.
And it's going to be tough because, I mean, yes, Las Vegas has a much bigger tourism authority than the Connecticut Sun do. So if the Connecticut, state government or an authority, organization there was doing something, then it would be tough for them to probably make a payment like this happen. But let's hear our last thought on this from a viewer.
This is Brooke Salazar on Facebook. She says, no way, WNBA players don't really get paid that well. Caitlin Clark is only making about $75,000 her first year. None of these women get paid like NBA players. Let them make some money. Jeez.
I agree, 100%. You heard it there. Caitlin Clark was making more money at Iowa as a college student athlete than she's making in her first year with the Indiana Fever. So to get a $100,000 sponsorship contract for any of those Aces players, it's a good thing. Guys, coming up after a short break, we got more to talk about on SOS. We got two great guests joining us. We're going to be talking to one of the big future stars of the volleyball world. You don't want to miss it. All right, welcome back to Sound Off Sports. We've got two special guests with us right now. Yes, the Las Vegas Sun just had their Sun Standout Awards. We got the managing editor of the Sun, Ray Brewer, with us, along with Gatorade Player of the Year, volleyball player from Bishop Gorman, Ayanna Watson. Ayanna, great to be with you as well. Guys, look at this shirt right here. I mean, that is a beauty. I wish I was at this award show. Ray, next year as the MC, you better be giving me one of these invites, okay?
Yes, right away.
Let's talk about this for a second. Ayanna, you got the Rising Star Award, but Ray, this is a really special award ceremony in general. How did you come up with this idea, and what does this mean for our community and young student athletes?
Well, so the great part about the award show is that we look at not just the sports that get all the publicity, right? We know about Gorman football, or we know about the great basketball that's played here, but we don't often talk about the great tennis scene we have, or the stud volleyball players, or a swimmer that shattered a record, or a track runner. And we definitely don't talk about the student athletes, the 4.8 weighted grade point average, or the kid that's waking up at 5 a.m. to make sandwiches for the rescue mission. So our show is able to solicit nominations about all the cool things kids are doing, not just on the athletic field, but in the community and in the classroom. And we get to bring them all together and celebrate their good achievements. It's an awesome program, awesome show, and I'm glad to celebrate her and to celebrate all the student athletes out there.
And before I talk to Ayanna, tell us, why did you guys choose, why did the committee choose Ayanna for Rising Star Award this year?
So we solicited nominations for like 4 months, and we got more than 150, and we get a group of 9 athletic directors, media members, and we get the list and we look at their achievements, and her category was stacked, right? We had a flag football player that passed for a state record 7,000 yards. We had a Gatorade Player of the Year in basketball who single-handedly ended a basketball dynasty.
Mm-hmm.
We had a softball player who is probably one of the elite softball players in the nation.
So this was a tough task.
Correct. In fact, we weren't able even to judge it until after the softball season ended. So it came down kind of to the wire. A lot of great freshmen and sophomore out there, and just if you look at the sports, basketball, softball, girls flag football, volleyball, a wide range. So we know that she's really good against the other volleyball players in her age group and throughout town, but how does she compare with that one basketball player? Or how does she compare with the softball player? Well, she won state, so there you go. And the softball player lost in the semifinals, but the other girl from Gorman won state as well. So there's
a lot of nuance. I
correct.
Can see,
yeah,
and
absolutely.
It's tough, and but it is incredible the season you've had. Tell us, what did the ceremony mean to you? Getting this award, you're a decorated athlete. I'm sure you're already Gatorade Player of the Year, but what did this award specifically mean to you? To share it with your family, your friends, and to be Las Vegas, born and raised person. Tell us what that meant.
Yeah. So I just think it was really cool. Like the whole ceremony in general. I've never been to anything like that before, so it was just like a new experience for me. The award itself, I wasn't really expecting it, because there are so many other great people in my category, like you said. Like my friend Aaliyah sitting next to me, Gatorade Player of the Year for basketball, really good. So yeah, I just think it was really exciting.
When you hear these stats, let's go through the stats. 605 kills, 373 digs, 56 aces, 52 blocks. That's a lot right there. Those are some crazy stats. What do you think is it about you and your game, your approach? Why are you the Gatorade Player of the Year? How are you able, at such a young age as a sophomore, to be this decorated, this incredible?
Well, I couldn't have done any of that without like the rest of my teammates. Volleyball is such a team-oriented sport because you have to have one person that passes, one person that sets, and someone else who puts the ball away. So I really like to give it all to my teammates because they're really important to me, and without them, couldn't even have won state or anything.
That's a great thing. And let's talk about even your pedigree and your family. Your dad, C.J. Watson, he's been on many of our shows. He's a great guy in the community. What has his teaching as a father, as a mentor in an athletic family, what has that meant to you?
My dad has just always pushed me. He has a really great work ethic, and my mom the same. My mom didn't go like professionally for soccer or anything, but she was still like a great athlete. So they both kind of know like what I need to do to get to where I want to go, like college-wise or professionally, just in general.
And Ray, covering the sports scene here, listen, Las Vegas is becoming such a major sports town, factory. When we're seeing all these great athletes coming out of high school here and then going to make an impact at the next level, what does it mean to you? What has it been like for you to witness the rise of so many great athletes here in our city?
Yeah, it's impactful because the relationships that I've been able to get over the years through high school sports is just awesome. And I remember when CJ got to Gorman, her dad, and he had a big shot in the corner. Gorman won state, and you're like, wow, we beat a Reno team. I have this kid, he might be good. He might go on to college.
Yeah.
And now it's like, Gorman's eighth man has got 12 offers and can't even get on the floor. Like you saw Zach Collins, he was like the third big man there.
Zaga.
And now he's 8 years in the NBA, and he's got a great contract. And as the Valley's expanded, it starts with the infrastructure at the youth level, right?
Yeah.
She's a great volleyball player because she's on a great club team with great coaches, and she's coming to her high school ready to go and prepared. And it's just been fun to watch the Valley grow and to see where a show like yours still values giving the kids coverage because, the Golden Knights won the Stanley Cup. The NFL owns the air in the world on Sundays. The Aces have won 2 titles in a row. The A's are coming into town, and for these kids, it's very important, and this is their ground, and they're going to go on to college and represent our community, and they love Las Vegas, and that's cool. It's
a special thing. Real quickly before I let you guys go, Ayanna, so the thrill, a new volleyball team here in town. How exciting is that? And what do you want for your future when it comes to volleyball?
Yeah, the thrill, they're great to watch all the time. My club director, Ruben Herrera, he is like the president, so after practices sometimes we'd all get together and we'd drive to the games, and it'd just be really fun to watch. But for me personally, it's like really nice to see because that's somewhere where I want to be in the future, like playing professionally. So yeah.
All right, any advice to kids out there who want to be you on this couch? Gatorade Player of the Year with 605 kills.
Probably just to stay dedicated and determined. Don't let what other people think you should do affect what you really want, because everybody else has their views on what you should be, so you just have to stay with what you think.
All right, I love it. All right, guys, thank you so much, Ray Brewer, Ayanna Watson. Thank you guys for everything, and there you have it. We got a Gatorade Player of the Year as well as a Rising Star with the Las Vegas Sun Standout Awards. Ray, thanks so much for that great concept you dreamt up. Next year I better have an invite.
Appreciate it.
I'm going to choose between the salmon and the steak, something like that.
Yes. Gatorade Player of the Year, somebody who likes to drink Gatorade.
Okay, so there you go. I'm a Gatorade Zero guy. And I just had a colonoscopy and I drank a lot of that stuff, but we'll save that for another segment. All right, guys, thank you so much. We'll see you in a quick second. We got more Sound Off Sports coming at you after a short break. All right, everybody, welcome back to Sound Off Sports. I got James Edward Berkman, the fourth, with me. James, this time around, we're asking everybody at home about the NFL's slate of primetime games with the New York Jets and, of course, Aaron Rodgers. Let's hear what the people at home had to say.
This first one from Steve Stubbs on Facebook. He says, the Jets are allowing themselves to be controlled by an over-the-hill, injury-prone QB who only lasted 4 snaps last season. Woody Johnson should be forced to sell the team for allowing this to happen.
Okay, that's ridiculous. Now, here's what I think. Aaron Rodgers is interesting. He's an interesting figure in the NFL. This guy's provocative, whether it's conspiracy theories, political views, whatever he talks about, it's an interesting thing, and he's a very fun player to watch. To me, this is New York City. The New York Jets, that's a big brand. People want to watch them on TV, and Aaron Rodgers just makes it more interesting. And the team is much better than you think. If he lasted throughout that season, they were going to be competitive. To have a future Hall of Fame quarterback who's, yes, he's coming off an Achilles injury. Yes, he's a little bit older, but he's still one of the elite QBs in the league. So I'm happy they're on a lot of primetime games as long as Aaron is staying healthy.
I read that an NFL executive said that the Jets owe the NFL one. After last year, Aaron obviously goes down, and we were forced to watch Zach Wilson, and I can't remember what the other backup was for how many primetime games. It felt like the Jets were forced down our throat. But that was because we were anticipating Aaron Rodgers being the quarterback, and that's exactly what this all is. It's a big brand. It's New York City, and it's Aaron Rodgers. The NFL is going to get them in primetime every opportunity.
Yeah, 100%. All right, what else are people saying?
This next one is Michael Frederick on Facebook. He says, they're going to be a dumpster fire, and no one will be able to look away.
And see, either way, they're either going to be great, or if they're a dumpster fire, it's still good television, in my opinion. A dejected Aaron Rodgers is interesting to watch. I think it's going to be compelling television to watch him, and he's one of the big draws of the NFL, I would say, Aaron Rodgers, even for non-football fans. So it's a no-brainer for the league to put them on a big primetime slate. Let's hear our last comment, though, that we got.
This is Johnny Blazin' Brimstone on Facebook. It will live up to being a joke. The very first game on Monday Night Football, I'm not a 49ers fan, but that defensive front line is every QB's fear. Poor Aaron, wondering what the excuses will be after, but who knows, maybe he'll get lucky.
Well, they got Fashanu in the draft. They're shoring up the offensive line. They got a couple more linemen in free agency. I think Morgan Moses, a couple guys. So they know they got to protect Aaron Rodgers. They also got Mike Williams, right? Breece Hall's a great player. Obviously, everybody loves Garrett Wilson. So, this team has the pieces to be competitive. It's a decent defense. I'm not the biggest Robert Saleh fan in the world. James, let's just say Rodgers stays healthy the entire season. What's the ceiling for this team?
I think the ceiling is 11 wins. That's assuming Rodgers stays healthy.
Yeah.
Assuming he stays healthy, that's the biggest thing. If he's still the guy that we saw pre-Achilles injury. I'm opposite of you. I'm actually a very big Robert Saleh fan. I believe in him. They have weapons offensively, Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall. You add Malachi Corley and Mike Williams. You have a short-up offensive line, Olu Fashanu, and other free agent additions. We know that defense can ball, too.
Yeah.
So if everything goes well, everything is smooth from a health perspective, I think 10 wins is a realistic expectation. Ceiling 11, but I think 9-10 wins is probably more probable.
And we saw it with Brady in his later years, too. When you get a guy of Aaron Rodgers' caliber, Hall of Fame quarterback, who might be a top 10, 15 QB of all time, 2-minute drill, end of the game, you never know what could happen with a guy of that, skill set and that experience. So it's going to be a fascinating thing to see this season in the NFL, the entire New York Jets situation. So we'll be tuning in for that, but we want to make sure you guys are sticking around and tuning in for our last segment. We got more from SOS. We got Sink or Swim coming up after a short break. All right, welcome back to SOS. Right now for Sink or Swim, I want to dive into something that's a total sink if it does in fact happen. Yes, the NBA and TNT, Warner Brothers, there's some disputes right now because, yes, the TV contracts for the NBA are currently up, and we've known it as NBA fans for a long time inside the NBA with Ernie Johnson, Kenny the Jet, Charles Barkley, and Shaq. It's the greatest show on television when it comes to a studio sports show. There's nothing like it that's even remotely in the vicinity or can replicate the magic of what that show produces week in, week out. And now it's really a potential that the NBA is going to be moving on from TNT. TNT has had NBA games airing on their network since 1988. They currently pay $1.2 billion for that B package of games, that entire slate. We all know they do all-star coverage as well. But now it looks like because the price has gone up to $2.6 billion to have that same slate of games, TNT and Warner Brothers might be out the door, and the NBA is now looking to Disney, ESPN, NBC to get back in the NBA game, as well as Amazon. So it's a shifting landscape, but for NBA fans to lose out on Inside the NBA would be a dreadful, awful, awful thing. And James, I want to bring you in because I think all NBA fans can agree that's the greatest studio show when it comes to NBA basketball. There's no differing opinions. It's the preference for all NBA fans. But when it comes to the NFL, it's a much different story. You and I don't even agree on what the best studio shows are for the NFL. So this is a big deal for the NBA. But tell me a little bit about what you're thinking about this and how it kind of differs from the NFL landscape.
I think losing Inside the NBA with those icons of the league right now, the potential of losing Chuck and Shaq, those two together, it's a grand slam. The risk of losing those two and Kenny and Ernie is, if you're the NBA, why would you even, that's like people tune in a lot of times to those games because they want to hear what Kenny and Chuck,
Exactly.
or not Kenny and Chuck and Shaq have to say.
And it's the opposite for a lot of games. A lot of times the halftime report, the studio segments that are filtered in within the games, they're not really anything anybody's tuning in for. But a lot of times it's part of the reason why people are calling up those games on their television. So I think it's a fascinating thing. I'm very sad if, in fact, this partnership is no longer going to be around. And yes, of course, Chuck and Shaq, they might get deals from other places like Amazon, and we could see what ultimately happens. But there's something special about that studio show in general. For me, like when it comes to the NFL, I love, the NFL Network's coverage. I love Fox NFL Sunday with all my guys like Terry and stuff, but it's a different thing. You're a CBS guy, so it's always different, and we hope instead the NBA doesn't leave us. But for now, I'll have to send it out to you guys. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you guys next week.